So my name is Kylie. I'm a rap facilitator. I teach the level 1 rap course. Today I'm going to describe rap to you. Some of you guys haven't taken the 3-day course. Tell you a little bit about myself. So I basically just a tidbit of growing up in an alcoholic home. My mother had anxiety disorder. My dad, I assume he was either bipolar or had depression. Through my teenage years, a lot of at-risk behavior in my life, a lot of drinking, not a whole lot of drugs because I couldn't afford them, but alcohol was fairly accessible. And so I ran with my friends, went into my 20s. One of the things that started happening though is I would have these days where I wasn't sleeping. I would do crazy, wild things that could have killed me. I would have these delusions that I was going to do these things like become the president of the United States or something and really believe it. And then I would get into this depression where I would sleep and I couldn't get out of bed for days at a time, you know. And so it wasn't until after my divorce and I was 35 years old, I actually started going to 12-step meetings and started addressing some of this alcohol consumption that I was involved with. And after I started, my head started clearing up, I was sober, but I still had some of these symptoms of the depression and mania and things like that. And so somebody from an AA meeting actually suggested that I go see my doctor and tell him what's going on. I went to my doctor, and what they did was they gave me a diagnosis, not of bipolar, but of depression and anxiety. And so I tried 5 different medications. Some of those medications were terrible. I finally landed on one that actually helped. And so I haven't had to deal with the manic part in a long, long time. Now I am basically dealing with the depression and the anxiety part. So fast forward a few years up into this year, actually, I started working in the mental health field, and I got invited to go to something called the Wellness Recovery Action Plan Seminar 1 at the San Antonio State Hospital. This was in February of this year. I went to it, and it blew me away because I didn't realize that you could come up with these coping skills and build a wellness toolbox to actually keep yourself well. I was doing these things kind of like intuitively, like, you know, when you feel like drinking, you just go to a meeting. Well, I didn't know that was called a tool in my wellness toolbox, or I didn't know that could be a part of a daily maintenance plan. I didn't have labels for these things, you know. And so while in the beginning of my career, I felt like drinking every day, so that would have been part of my daily maintenance plan to go to a meeting. Now in my life, it might just be one of the tools in my toolbox. If I feel like drinking, sometimes I will drink a Red Bull, or I'll hang out with some friends, or I'll call somebody, or I might go to a meeting. I don't have just one tool in my toolbox now, okay? So when I went to the seminar, the 3-day seminar, I picked up some of this language. I started writing a rap, taking action on some of these things. And immediately after I graduated from that 3-day seminar, I wanted to teach it. I wanted to share it with other people because it had such a powerful effect on my life. So what I'm going to describe to you is the various steps of rap. If you go to the 3-day seminar, you'll see this stuff. And of course, I can't drill down too deep today in a short video, but I will discuss some of it. And then afterwards, if y'all have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those questions for you. Okay? All right, so the first part of rap, I'm going to discuss the 5 key concepts of good mental health recovery. And then we're going to discuss the wellness toolbox, which is one of the main parts of rap. And then we're going to get into the action planning aspect of it for how to get well and stay well. And then at the end, we're going to cover the recovery topics. And that's aspects that you can look at daily and figure out everything is proportional to staying well. You might be doing too much of one thing and not enough of another. And so we'll discuss that. So the 5 recovery concepts are hope. So like I could have never, when I went into a depression after my divorce, I would still be in that bed, or I'd be dead if I didn't have that little light of hope, thinking that things can get better for me, you know. I'm in a bad situation now. Things are falling apart. I dealt with some homelessness. My only coping skill is drinking. Wife gone, took the kids, but there has to be a glimmer of hope out there. And maybe by the grace of God or what have you, there was that still small voice telling me, this is not the end. You're not done. Don't stay down. Get back up. And so by utilizing hope in my life, I was able to go to 12-step meetings, go to the doctor, get medication, apply to work, and get a job in mental health, and do all these wonderful things that I've been blessed to do, but it's only because of hope. Without hope, there would be no way for me to recover in any way, shape, or form, okay? And I'm just saying personally, and hope is a big part of rap. Also, personal responsibility. Nobody was going to come to my rescue. I had burned all my bridges. My loved ones didn't want to be around the drunk. I'd already promised them 1,000 things and blew it. They weren't interested in helping me anymore. And so I had to get up and put my big boy britches on and get out there and go to the meetings and apply for jobs and try to get an apartment. When I got a divorce, I didn't even know where to pay my light bill. I had to figure out how to be an adult. But I had to take personal responsibility for my life. And then education, when they said I had anxiety and depression, what is that? I used to go into HEB and suddenly the lights were too bright and my heart would start beating real fast and my thoughts would start racing, and I would just think, I gotta get the hell out of here. And I would leave. I didn't know that was called a panic attack. I had no idea until I educated myself on this stuff. What is depression? Oh, I shouldn't be mad at myself for being depressed. It might be a chemical imbalance, or it might be the result of trauma. It could be a lot of things. I can show loving kindness to myself and compassion as I would a friend that was depressed, right? It took me a long time to learn self-care. And then advocate, going to the doctor. The first medication they gave me made me feel like a zombie. I didn't even have any emotions or no feelings, And I thought, okay, well then this is what being better feels like. I wasn't laughing, I wasn't crying, I wasn't manic, I wasn't depressed, but I wasn't anything. So I had to go back to my doctor and say, you know what, man, if this is as good as it gets, I don't want it. I don't need any medication. And the doctor kept saying, well, try this one, give it a couple of months, come back, blah, blah, blah. And whether it's a placebo effect or whatever, I was on 300 milligrams of this stuff daily, and I'm down to 150. And I think that, it's just routine, taking my medication every morning, and I felt a lot better by taking it. So, but it took a while to get there, and it took a lot of, and actually I went through a bad spot maybe a year ago, or maybe 2 years ago, where I had to go to find another therapist, and I was linked up to the Jewish Family Center for almost a year, going to therapy every 2 weeks, because some new traumas had come out in my life that I had not addressed. And so, going to the doctor getting medication is one thing, but you're going to be, peaks and valleys of this thing, and things might arise that you didn't deal with. So you got to get up and you got to find that doctor, that case manager, that peer support specialist, that website, whatever it is that'll help you. And that leads to support, So I'm fortunate enough to work at the San Antonio Clubhouse and have a lot of friends around me every single day. It used to not be like that. I used to have no support network. My brother is the only one I could call on, and he did things grudgingly. Because out of, okay, you're my brother, I'll have to help you, But he wasn't super willing because I had burned that bridge so many times. Now I've been able to put together a huge support group. Everybody in this room I consider a friend. I feel like I could call you all, text you, you could be there for me if I really needed you, That's huge. I've never had that in my life. I'm so blessed right now. But I really had to work on those relationships. I couldn't walk around and be a jerk to everybody and then expect them to be there for me when I needed them. I had to really build that relationship, And so that could be case manager, social worker, friends, family, anything, creating a support network. All right, we're going to go to the Wellness Toolbox. This is what's talked about, the most in rap, is that we got these things. Like I always bring this up. Sometimes when I'm falling into a depression on a Saturday or Sunday, I'll put in this movie called Rango. Have you ever heard of Rango? It's an animated film.
Cowboy
Yeah,
lizard.
Johnny Depp is the voice of this lizard. It's like a Western. And I don't know, I've seen it like 200 times. But when I'm on the couch and I'm falling into that depression, if I can just lay there and watch a few minutes or, watch half of Rango, it just brings me out of it a little bit. I think it's funny. I see different things in it every time I watch it. And I think I've made it almost like a medication. It's kind of like watching Rango is some form of medication for me, or coping skill for that matter. So yeah, various things that you can do. Go to a meeting, call a friend, do meditation, deep breathing. All that stuff are tools in your wellness toolbox. So in the 3-day seminar, we work on this for a long time, and then we'll go to the daily maintenance plan. Now, you got some tools in your toolbox that you have to do every single day. It might be going to a meeting, or it might be coming to Clubhouse, or it might be, whatever it is for you that you have to do every day. Take your medication, drink water, whatever. And the way we get to that point of the daily maintenance plan is we write down in our wrap what I'm like when I'm well, so that you know what you're like when you're feeling well. That way, if you see signs that you're not doing that good, oh no, I need to use something. Maybe I forgot to do something on my daily maintenance plan, or maybe I forgot to use something in my wellness toolbox, right? So the stuff we got to do every day, and then there'll be some things that you might choose to do every day. More than likely, you will do them every day, but if you forget, maybe it's like jogging or walking outside. You want to do that every day, but when it's snowing outside, you might not be able to do it, So, everybody still with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All the way.
All right, thank you. So with the stressors, we move to section 2. We talk about triggers or stressors. That's things like being put in a situation. For me, getting triggered is sometimes it happens now where I'll say something and somebody will snicker behind me, or somebody will disagree with me, and suddenly my face turns red and my ears start throbbing, and it takes me all the way back to school when somebody made fun of me when I tried to say something in class or something. You know what I mean? And then my heart starts beating fast, and I'm like embarrassed because I'm all red, and I don't know why I'm all red, and it's just triggering, And so there's actions that I can do when I feel triggered, and even going into the grocery store now, I haven't had a panic attack in years, but I know if it starts coming on, do some deep breathing, calm down, smile at people, focus on your list, things like that to get you through that situation before it turns into a full-blown panic attack, right? So we think about some of the things in our life that trigger us, or these stressors in our life, and then we write an action plan for how we're going to do it. If I start feeling triggered, I'm going to use deep breathing, I'm going to call a friend, I'm going to go to a meeting or whatever. All right, early warning signs. It's showing that things are starting to break down a little bit. You're starting to call in sick to work. Maybe you're not calling your family anymore. Maybe you stop going to meetings. These are some of the things that when you notice that things are starting to spiral down a little bit, you need to take action in some way to get out of that, right? Right?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Right. All right. So section 4 is when things are really starting to break down. You're really starting to, missing more and more work. You're not phoning your friends. You're not leaving the house. You stop paying your bills, and you're like, oh man, this is really going south. I need to get out my rap and look and see. When I was feeling well, I wrote all this stuff down. When I went to that 3-day seminar with Kylie and Kelly and Paul and Mark, it was so great to learn all this stuff, and I wrote all this stuff down, but I threw it in a drawer and I didn't use it. Now that I haven't been to Clubhouse in 6 weeks, and I'm still wearing the same clothes and I haven't showered or brushed my teeth, I need to go to that drawer and pull it out and figure out what I wrote when I said, when things start breaking down, I'm going to take these action steps to pull out of it. Okay? So if those actions, you work in your wellness toolbox, doing your daily maintenance plan, and things are still getting worse, and suddenly you get into a crisis situation. Now you're having suicidal thoughts. Now I have friends that hear things, angry voices telling them to do bad things to themselves. You're like, okay, the voices are back, I'm not showering, I haven't left the house, there's no food in the house, things are going bad. I'm going to go back and look at what I wrote when I put what I'm like when I'm doing well. Oh, when I'm doing well, I shower, I shave, I smile, I go to the clubhouse every day, I take my medication. I haven't done any of those things. I need to go back and start working those tools in my toolbox. You also wrote in one of your action plans signs that others need to take over. So when you're feeling well, you might go up to somebody and say, hey, I wrote this action plan, Brandon. It says that if you ever see me stuck in my house, not coming to the clubhouse, you try to call me, I'm not answering my phone, this is what I need you to do for me. I need you to call my therapist, I need you to call my sister, I need you to get somebody involved because I'm in crisis. So I've written all that stuff down when I was well. Now I've written a list of phone numbers and addresses to the supporters, the people that I want to help me out in that situation. And I might ask Brandon and Lisa and Molly and maybe a few other people, when you see me in crisis, call these people and get them involved in my life, okay? Now, during the 3-day seminar, if we have time, we discuss medications. Are you okay with your medications? When is it time to change your medications? When is it time to go off your medications altogether? And we have some scribing and some brainstorming around that. We also talk about various treatments. We've heard everything from going to the psychiatrist to taking mud baths. It's completely individual what you want to do as far as treatments. Instead of going to the ER or to a hospital, you might find a pure respite. We're trying really hard to start a pure respite here in San Antonio. We're going to go visit one in Houston soon to see if we can find a place so to keep people from going to the ER. How's your home life? Do you have community care? And then the respite, like I talked about. Or is a treatment facility an option? Maybe you do have a problem with alcohol and drugs, and when is it time to decide you need to go back and do an inpatient or an outpatient treatment facility again? All right. So you work through all these steps one way or another, even if you had to go get outside help or maybe your supporters helped you in some way. But you eventually, even if you went to a respite, now you're out, you're feeling better, you're showering again, you're brushing your teeth. We talk about when is it time to inactivate the written crisis plan that you wrote. When do your supporters know when it's time to stop visiting you at the house, stop bringing you casseroles, stop feeding your dog, or I always say walking your plant and watering your dog, or one of those things, or vice versa. And then post-crisis plan. You look at your plan and say, damn, that didn't work. I need to rewrite this whole plan. I called Brandon, he forgot I even talked to him about my thing. He said he was going to bring me food, he didn't even show up. I tried to call Molly, I said, hey, if you bring me some beer. She didn't even do it. All I wanted was a 6-pack. She wasn't there for me. So you go back and rewrite it. What worked? What didn't work? Let's go back. Maybe Brandon's not the best one to call on. Maybe I need to get Jeffrey and say, hey, Brandon didn't come through for me. Jeffrey, I'm going to give you a shot, man. Can you be there for me? And rewrite that part of your action plan, okay? And then you talk about timetables. I've been showering and brushing my teeth for a good 4 weeks now. You can leave me alone. I'm fine. All right? Yeah, and you do all this work when you're feeling well, and it's amazing that even doing that, even in the 3-day seminar, let's say that you go through the 3-day seminar and then afterwards you do put it in a drawer and you never use it again. It literally helped me, and I'll carry it with me the rest of my life, just sitting down thinking about these things. I feel like thinking about these things for the first time helped me in my recovery, I might never get to a place where I have to utilize a post-crisis plan, but just thinking about how I would do that, it was healing for me to think through some of these things. All right, so I'm going to let y'all see my other beautiful side. Recovery topics, right? So here's some at the end of the 3-day seminar and various times during the 3-day seminar, we'll discuss some of these things. Huge when it comes to mental health recovery. Self-esteem. How do you build? We read several handouts on how to build self-esteem. I used to have terrible self-esteem. When I applied for a job, I always applied for the lowest of the low. Like I'll scrape the toilets, whatever you need me to do. And they're like, hey, dude, looks like you could be a manager here. No. You show me where the mop is or whatever. Not saying that that's a bad thing, because I worked as a custodian for like 3 years and actually loved it. But my self-esteem was never at a point where I thought I could be at a certain level. It was always, everything I ever did was entry level. It took me a long time to figure out that after I, maintained a certain amount of recovery and wellness, that I could probably reach higher for some of the things. And because my self-esteem got built up, I would do something and I would accomplish it, and I was like, oh crap, that worked. Let's try something else. I'm going to sign up for this thing. I actually did that thing. It actually worked. Boom. I'm going to try something else. Little bit by little bit by little bit of successes finally told me that, wow, I am worth a crap. I can do stuff. I am intelligent. I can, be a big boy. All right, so changing negative thoughts to positive ones. Another big thing. I use meditation. I use all kind of stuff. I used to look at myself in the mirror and spit at myself. I used to call myself things that I would never say to anybody on this earth. I used to I would go to sleep and hope I didn't wake up. And when I did wake up, first person I saw in the mirror was myself. And I would just spit and say, you're a piece of da 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 da. That's how I started my day. So from that old Kylan to this Kylan, I try to be positive. I try to love myself. I try to speak positive to myself. I try to cut myself some slack. I can make mistakes now, and I don't have to carry it with me all the time and think about, oh God, I screwed up. I'm able to let things go more often now. Once again, going to peer support, being around people that support me instead of downgrade me, that's huge. My old friends, they weren't healthy for me. My new friends aren't healthy for me. Work, career, are you working in a good place? Maybe you're working too much. Maybe you're not working enough. We look at that, try to figure it out. Life is like a pie. You got to cut it up in any way you need to be healthy for you. If you're working 80 hours a week, that might not be good for your mental health. But if you're only working 2 hours a week, that also might not be good for your mental health, right? Trauma-informed recovery, looking into those things in your life that has traumatized you before. What kind of action plans, wellness tools, and groups can you go to help with some of the trauma in your life? Ways when you do have suicidal thoughts, things are boiling up that you're not used to. How can you get support around that? And then we get into like living space. Keeping your place clean is huge for me. Like, I can't deal with clutter. My anxiety hits the roof if I'm in a place that's really cluttered. So like almost every weekend, I talk myself into cleaning. If it's organized magazines or sweeping the floor or just something so it doesn't feel so cluttered around me. When it's cluttered, it literally feels like the walls are doing this to me. It just feels like I'm in this tiny box, and I can get up and just kind of move some things around and tidy up, and suddenly it's spacious again. Weird. All right, so looking at your living space, your lifestyle. Are you going out every night and hanging out at bars and drinking on top of your mental health medication? Might be good for you, might not. Might be good for her, might be not good for you. Who knows? That's up to you to figure out, right? Motivation. What motivates you? Why do you get up every day? What do you want to achieve in this life? What kind of friends do you want to have? What kind of work do you want to do? So basically, that's in a nutshell the Wellness Recovery Action Plan 3-day seminar. And my name is Kylie Clark. Thank you for letting me present to you today.